Hello and welcome back to Quest 64, everybody. This is part 2. Last video we basically started off the game and we were just about to head out and actually start our adventure, which is what we are going to do in this video. So once you're ready to leave Melrode, head on out to the open road. It's got bumpin' music. I love the open world music. And you're gonna find yourself on this big area. It's very open. It's basically trees, grass, and not a whole lot else, which gives you the perfect opportunity to get ambushed. There are 6 different enemies in this area and 3 different spirits to collect, so it's a bit of a long road. Enemies are random encounters. As you can see, they're just going to pop up. The yellow circle is the whole entire circle that everybody has to move in. So the enemies can move anywhere within the yellow circle. Brian can move anywhere that's in the blue circle here. This is our circle to attack. And if you manage to get to an area where you can get outside the yellow circle, that is how you escape. So if you need an escape route, you'll want to head towards the yellow lines, and it's turn-based. These enemies will not attack you until Brian takes his first turn, so take your time, don't stress out. These are werehairs. They are nothing to worry about. They are wind element enemies, and what I recommend for the first part of the game when you're out starting is I recommend using rock against these enemies, because rock is much more overpowered in comparison to what you're going to be able to do when you attack. To attack, all you have to do is get close enough to the enemy. I'll show this off briefly. And once you get close enough to them, you'll get the little staff icon. You press A, and you will be able to whack them with your staff. Now, these enemies are weak. Werehairs, you can do it either way. You can use magic, or you can attack them. However, MP restores as you walk around on the world map, so don't be shy to use magic. And it also puts Brian at less risk if you are farther away. Now, Hellhounds may give you a bit of difficulty. They are pretty resistant to rock, I find. They're also very fast. And I would say that if you get into a battle with 3 or more of them, to just run the other way, because they will most likely overpower you. You do not restore HP on the world map, which is important to remember. You do get MP by walking around, but you don't get MP. So you need to take that into consideration. That guy gave me a bit of a hard time there. My spells were missing. I was trying to hurl rocks at him and it wasn't quite working. You usually get an element at the end of a battle if you managed to level up or after a certain amount of battles. The way that you level up is by taking damage or evading damage is essentially what it comes down to. By taking damage, your HP and your defense will go up, and by evading damage, your agility will go up. So you need to have a very delicate balance. I also forgot to mention how to use your spells. It's basically just using the C-pad. So left is rock, up is fire, right is wind, and down is water. And this will allow you to easily reach all your spells. Once you've picked the one you want, press A and it will cast it for you. So it's not a very complicated battle system, but it's very unique and it's a lot of fun, and it can get very hectic later on in the game, I assure you. So our first spirit is going to be here, way in the corner by this beach. If I could get to it, these hares are interrupting me and it's quite rude. I'm trying to explain to the good people how to power themselves up so that we can whoop your butts. I almost have 5 water spirits, and in order to be able to heal, I need 7. And once I get the power to heal, I will practically have absolutely no problems with this. I may have to warp back to Melrode using my wings though, because I'm already at half HP and I don't want to use my bread. I do not advise using bread unless you're in a dungeon or something and you really do not want to warp back, or you can't. For example, if you're in a forest, you won't be able to use your wings. I only recommend really doing that, using the bread, if you're in a situation like that. Again, with this enemy here, this is the Big Mouth. He's probably the easiest enemy in this area because he's slow, he's dumb. He uses water spells, which are close range, so you can just stand over with rock and avoid. He tried to attack me with his water there, but I managed to get away. It's also important to remember that you can pretty much dodge any attack that's thrown your way. Maybe not physical, but magic, definitely. You can see there that all I had to do was walk out of his way, and he couldn't attack me. When your enemy is attacking, you are actually free to move around, which is a really unique kind of element that you don't see in a lot of RPGs, especially if it is turn-based. But when he starts to attack and he was going to hurl that big waterfall at me, all I really had to do was just move out of the way, and he really was no problem to me. So learn how your enemies move, and you can pretty much avoid fire, wind, rock. Not necessarily as much later on in the game, but in the beginning, definitely. Our first home has a little gypsy in it. Jarbles don't show up here very often. It seems that it isn't safe anywhere on the road these days. I see a future for you fraught with danger and challenges that no ordinary human could meet. It isn't clear, but your destiny awaits you at the end of the longest road. Well, we got a lot of roads to travel, lady, so Brian's got a long way to go. And I apologize if the map is a little bit confusing. Again, just use B to center your camera and make it follow you. And at the end of a battle, Brian will do his little cheer and he'll jump up and down in the air. And the camera will automatically face the direction that you were going when you started the battle, which is insanely useful because sometimes it gets really confusing because everything looks the same and you weren't sure which direction you were going. All you really have to do is just let the camera do the work for you before you head out again. Wind cutter can be avoided either by running around like that. The reason I was standing still is because usually with wind cutter, if you stand still, sometimes the spell will just go right around you, which is kind of amusing. It just kind of wraps around Brian and doesn't hit him at all. But it seems to be pretty accurate right now, and I'm taking a lot of damage, which is okay. I've pretty much at this point made it halfway to Dondoran, and I'm going to be using my wings and going back to Melrode. After this battle is done, I was going to use my wings, but then these guys very rudely interrupted me. I am not having any luck with rock. I apologize. Rock does do a lot of damage, but for some reason, it's missing an awful lot for me. And Brian is very tired, so let's give him a rest. Let's use our white wings. We're in a wide open space. It's going to bring us right back to Melrode, the front gates where we left, and now we are free to go to the inn. We're going to rest up, and we can also go and grab another pair of white wings. So, as you can tell, this game is a lot of grinding and a lot of trial and error. If you get lost, you can use the wings to go back to town and kind of get your bearings back. You can use it to level without dying, and such and so forth. And another really important thing that's very unique to this RPG to remember is that dying actually virtually does nothing. You don't lose items when you die. You have no money, so you don't lose money. You don't have to reload your game or anything like that. The only thing you will lose is your progress. So if I was near Dondoran Castle and I died, I would have to be brought all the way back to Melrode, but I would keep all of my experience, I would keep all my spirits, and I would keep pretty much everything that I had already accomplished in the game. So I think that's a really cool system that you definitely don't see very often. And it doesn't force you to save a lot that way, you know, you don't have to save or anything like that. Because the only place you can save is at the inns. You can't save anywhere you want or on the world map or anything like that, so. Now that we're a little tougher, I think that we're gonna have a bit of an easier time getting to Dondoran. I plan to get there by the end of this video. And don't worry, I know that this seems like a lot of grinding and a lot of enemies, but I will be doing the majority of my grinding off screen, because obviously that would be extremely painful for you all. And this game is pretty much all grinding, to be honest. It's a lot of traveling, fighting enemies, going to a town, traveling, fighting enemies, grinding because those enemies are too strong, rinsing and repeating, which I don't mind. I think it's a really fun mechanic. So, likewise with dying, nothing really happens when you run away. You know, some games punish you if you run away, but this one doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't allow you to run away, but if you do run away, there are no consequences. These are some new enemies that we haven't seen before. These are the bumbershoots and parasols, and I would say that these guys are probably the most annoying ones that you'll run into in this area, but they're not necessarily any stronger. I totally threw my rock in the wrong direction. Some spells will kind of do the projectile in the direction, the general direction that you're facing, and some of them are very, very exact, so if I'm completely faced the other way and I were to throw a rock, the game would throw it in that direction. So it's fairly generous, I find, on hitting the enemy, but you do need to be at least facing in your enemy's direction if you want to hit it. So we've already got 10 spirits and we just started, which is great. We're off to a really, really good start. You can see the house is, I think it was actually back there. I think I've actually passed the point that I was already. And if I pull up my map, you can see that we are in between the two houses, which pretty much marks the halfway point. So that first house was on the right-hand side. It's kind of tucked away, so make sure you don't miss it, because it does have that spirit there for you. And then this house, you would have to be absolutely blind to miss, especially with its blaring orange roof that it's got. And this one also contains a spirit. And then once we pick this spirit up, that will pretty much be it. We'll pretty much have seen every single enemy that there is to see. I do believe we have seen them all. And we'll have collected all the spirits. So all there really is to go to Dondoran. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my spirit. It's just on the outside of the house here, and I'm going to put it into water, which will allow me to get my first healing ability. You can see here that if I press down on the C-pad and I select healing level 1 as my spell, I can heal, I think in between 4 and 7 HP, I want to say. I can use it as many times in a row as I need to, and my MP will restore itself as I walk around. I'd recommend getting that healing spell as soon as you can, because it's going to help you. I don't think this guy says anything. He's basically just telling us where we're going. A robber is about. Oh, well, that's fantastic. I'm like a 12-year-old kid. There's no way I'll get robbed. I'm not vulnerable looking or anything. When we get to Dondoran, we're going to hear a lot more about that thief, so be prepared for that. That's not something we have to really worry about at the current moment, though. So as you can see, I escaped from that battle, but the camera panned behind me, which basically tells me that I was headed in that direction. There's also a compass on the top right-hand side of the screen, if you hadn't noticed, and the compass, if you're having a hard time with the camera and you can't really depend on the camera, I would definitely pay attention to your compass. Compass is very, very useful, actually. It's a really good thing that they put into this game. I forget what these enemies are called. I think they're called Doom Eaters. And they use rock spells, or man-eaters. And luckily, for me, rock is easy to dodge. For them, not so much, because they just stand around and do nothing about it. They hit pretty hard, though. These are the first enemies we're seeing that are new. These enemies are considered to be part of Dondoran. I might actually have to run away from them, just because I don't feel like really tackling them right now. So we're going to start to see some new monsters because Dondoran is literally a step or two away, which is why I just want to get out of here. There we go. You can even see the little signpost that tells us where to go. So in this direction, down there is Connor Forest. Extremely powerful enemies at this point in the game. You definitely want to do a whole lot of grinding before you go in there. And then straight ahead is Dondoran Castle. So the abbot mentioned we needed to go see the king so that we could get a blessing, so that we wouldn't get eaten or something, I guess, or mowed down by our enemies, although it seems like that's already starting to happen, so I think I'll leave it here. I will wait to go into Dondoran until the next video. I don't want to ruin the surprise. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that I will see you next time.